Welcome to episode 427 of Salcedo Paranormal. And tonight is our monthly special roundtable show. And this time we'll be sharing true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media and other ways to contact me at the podcast page. And that is salcedoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions, or stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you are here for the live streams on Discord, or you listen on the podcast or YouTube feeds, or if you listen on the Troubled Minds radio network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of the show, two of them, every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Troubled Minds Radio comes on. Always want to thank Michael Strange, host of Troubled Minds Radio, and Liam Martin, also known as Rohan, host of the Exile Minds podcast, for producing the show and putting in the music that you hear on the show at the beginning and the end of every episode when you listen on the station. There are a few different ways to support the show if you would like to do so. You can always share the show with others and rate and review it on your podcast platform of choice. Also, I've written some paranormal fiction and nonfiction books you can check out on Amazon. And then there are also direct donation links, PayPal, Venmo, and then Patreon. And coming soon, hopefully in August, I will start putting out at least one extra Patreon show every month. So I'll let you all know when that starts, and we'll go from there with that. And I think that takes care of everything. Really happy that we get to do this today. And just because of how things work, we end up having 3 guests today to do this. So that's really amazing. I want to thank everyone for being here. And so we can go, might as well, we can go with, I'll try alphabetical order here, and you all can go whenever we're ready. Apoc, welcome to the show again.
Hi, how are you? How is everybody?
Good, thank you for coming. And then next would be Jay, I believe, if I know the alphabet right. So
hi, everybody. Thanks for inviting me, James.
Yeah, no problem. And then, of course, Matsowl, Matt from California. So welcome to the show.
Hey, James. How are you today?
Good. And thank you all again for coming. I know we had, it doesn't matter which one, I don't have to say which one, but we didn't know if we were going to have 2 people, so wanted to make sure we did. And because of that, now we have 3, which is really amazing. So Jay has gone through this before, and 2 months ago, we had one of these shows. But for anyone that's listening that's new to this, basically how it goes is I read stories that I found online and about paranormal experiences, and then everyone gets to react to them. And it's a lot of fun. Last time, of course, we did it, Jay and I were here, and we did that with Derek, who you all heard on Wednesday night's show. So, and I've already been talking to him, and he's going to be on the next one of these in a couple months. So that will be a lot of fun again. So yeah, I think I can get right to the stories here. And I mean, I have more than we'll need. So, but thanks to some help from friends, including Michael Strange again. So, all right, here we go with the first one, and we'll see what happens. This one says, I have had many paranormal experiences in my life, but less frequently as I've grown older. This experience involves a temporary feeling of jumping to a parallel universe where everything looks the same, except for one key difference. In this parallel universe, the room feels like it has a heartbeat, and all other sounds and sensations align with this rhythm. My own heartbeat synchronizes with this rhythm, and even my thoughts seem to conform to this grid-like rhythm. During these experiences, I feel compelled to remain seated and avoid exploring further or opening any doors, as I worry about what might happen. The phenomenon has only occurred at my home, and usually when I am sitting very still. It has happened while I am trying to fall asleep, when I was younger, lasting for hours, and also during the daytime, when I'm sitting still. But these episodes were shorter, typically ending within a few minutes. This sensation is disturbing and challenging to articulate clearly. And that's where that story ends. Talk about an odd one to start with. So, who wants to go first? This audio to me sounds almost like something Apoc might be interested in.
I have a slight sound situation, so if somebody else could go first, that would be amazing.
No problem. So, yeah, Jay or Matt, whichever one wants to go.
I think it's weird how he was telling the story, or he or she was telling the story of how it just happens. It kind of makes me think of, believe it or not, your house is alive. It's a living entity. And you just live inside of it, but it's all the things together that make the house. It's weird how he said that he felt the heartbeat, the rhythm of the house, and that it only happened at his house. That's kind of weird to me.
Yeah, I wonder if what would happen if they did explore further, if they went out, especially if they went outside. This is actually now what I'm really wondering. Would they still hear or feel anything different? If they're sort of out in the middle of the open, where I don't know. I wonder if there would be some kind of sounds coming from just the ground itself or not.
Yeah, the fact that it didn't happen, it hasn't happened anywhere else, just in his house. Kind of a Beetlejuice thing. Open the door and the sandworms are out there.
Yeah, makes you wonder.
Yeah, I just think about that. It's kind of a weird story.
Yeah, that's
How
again, I
they
don't
have
know
that
how to
feeling.
classify this story because it really doesn't fit in any of your usual sort of boxes. Even though I don't really like to do boxes around here, but it just doesn't really fit a lot that I can think of.
Yeah, maybe they're like tapping into some sort of source, like a meditation type thing. Like when he said he was very still when it happened. Wonder if he's like tapping into some sort of like not Kundalini energy, but like some sort of at the moment of relaxation. He's so relaxed that he's like tapping into something.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Next person.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. Could there be any sounds that would cause this kind of a thing in a house that you can think of, Jay, as far as the construction of it? Maybe?
Like a heart beating sound? I don't
Yeah,
know.
right.
I mean, like sometimes I feel like when you're in the house, you can feel it breathe, just because of the way that they're made, the airflow goes through it and everything like that. I mean, something to write it off. I don't know. The fact that he's sitting there, like Matt was saying, and that was in the story, that he was like really calm and trying to fall asleep, kind of makes me think that, he's definitely getting in tune with something, whatever that something is. Why wouldn't you check out what's behind door number 1?
I know.
Just a little peek or something.
Well,
But then again,
I'm wondering if they've never had any other experiences, then I can see why it'd be they might not want to try that. But I know I'd be wanting to check out the outside. Like I said, go outside and see what the world feels like at that point.
My curiosity would definitely get me.
Oh
the
man,
better.
because I mean, even if you're just like, let's say you're in the house, well, the other rooms may be slightly different, but then again, there's still variations on a room. So I'd want to go outside actually and check that out. But yeah, that's an odd one, I think. So, but yeah, go ahead, Apoc.
Maybe Jay can help me figure this one out, because when I was living in that old Masonic lodge house, we had the sound of like a dragon going through the house, and we checked all the tubing and the stuff in the walls, and we didn't see how anything went straight through in the direction that we heard the sound. And so maybe Jay can, in a minute, bring up a way that possibly that could have happened. I have no idea. It's bizarre. But it was, we had a lot of paranormal stuff going on in that house as well, so it could have been that. I like the spice sandworm situation that Matt brought. And you were talking about going outside. That would kind of be the first thing that I would do if it were a progressive, like persistent thing. I'd really want to go like out and stand on the ground and feel it and see if it weren't like related to an earthquake or some earth sounds or something like that that could be vibrating the foundation and really, getting that sound embedded in the house like that. So it's I'm relating it a lot to that house that I used to live in with the girls, because it almost had its own heartbeat. There were a lot of sounds there, and there were a lot of things that were extremely bizarre to deal with. But yeah, and if the vibration or frequency of a location, the energy that has happened within that house and within that place and within that position could really make it powerful, depending on what all has happened and how much has happened in that space or that location. Or maybe it could be some energetic crossroads that attach right there, that connect right there. And I just want to say real quick, if I need to mute up, it's because the pups are making lots of noise. So I apologize in advance for that.
No problem. No problem at all.
And
Yeah, no, that's it does seem like anything is possible with that. I really wonder if there's so much going into, because they mentioned they feel like they went into a parallel universe, but I wonder if it's more of just a different state of, again, going back to what Matt said, the consciousness, the meditation almost, whether they mean to go into some kind of meditative state or not. I wonder if that's more of what's happening, and then the rest is sort of related to that. Again, I think I would just wonder, because it seems like that's a lot to have happened to somehow. But then again, I don't know, because you have to let these stories be what they are in a way. And if they feel like they went to some other universe, then maybe, for all we know, they did. But I wonder if it's also they could be sort of mistaken about that as well, and it's more of just a shift of the consciousness, that kind of thing. I wonder if they even somehow fell asleep and it was just so fast that they didn't realize it, and maybe that's how they did go to some other universe or whatever dimension, because I've had those couple of experiences where I'm pretty sure I was in some kind of alternate or parallel reality because of the different situations that I encountered with family, or with where being in this other realm, I didn't need my white cane to walk around this completely unknown city that I was in, which is not how it would go here. And again, the other one with the family was I told the story before where I found myself in a house where I used to live with my mom and my then stepdad and their daughter. Well, in this experience, we were all still in that house, even though they divorced years ago, and they only had one daughter. Well, in this experience, I had three sisters there. They had three daughters, not just one. And it was so odd because it felt normal while I was there, but then when I woke up, it was just so odd because wait, that never happened. So I don't ever discount the possibility of people traveling to different versions of reality because I feel like I've been there myself. But yeah, neat story there. I don't know if anyone wants to go again, or I can move on to the next story here. But amazing one. So I don't know if
May I?
yeah, I was just gonna say, Jay, if you want to respond to Apoc there.
Now that she said that, that kind of got me thinking a little bit and stuff like that. Like sometimes when the wind blows just the perfect right way, it runs in channels, and the thing, like we have our front door. When the wind comes from the northeast, it'll make this noise that'll make you jump out of your skin. And it took me like 5 or 6 times for it to happen to track down what it really was, And I just think that, something like that. But if the guy, it's happening when he's sleeping, or getting ready to sleep or sitting there really still and having it kind of goes back to how I sort of think about these things is like when you're younger, you're more apt to see and believe and have these feelings or experiences because, well, not as much now as it used to be, but it used to be very taboo. If somebody was talking to somebody about this, even 20 years ago, they'd be like, wow, dude, lay off the, sauce,
Yeah.
But now, so like we're conditioned. So I think that we like move away from those things. Like you write it off for something else or just ignore it altogether. I just wonder if, that's what's happening to him. But the fact that it's happening, it doesn't happen any other time would lead me to believe that, he's definitely headed somewhere thinking about something, something's going on. But I definitely would, I don't know if I would just sit there.
Yeah. Yep. No, I know. I'd be wanting to go outside. And yeah. No, thank you for jumping in there, Jay. I forgot that Apoc had asked the question. My mind was going in so many places. But yeah. Well, that's a neat way. I was I found these and I just store them, so I don't really have them in any order. And I saw that one was first. And I was like, oh wow. Well, here we go already. So yeah, really
Very
neat.
cool story.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, I don't think I've ever heard a story anywhere near really like that before. So those are always fun. But yeah, all right. Well, let me get to this next one here, and we'll go from there. Get back to the file. Okay. This one says, I went to a water park with my parents and 2 brothers when I was around 10 years old. We were watching a movie on the small TV screens attached to the back of the front seats in the car. Suddenly, a black shadow figure wearing a top hat and holding a cane appeared on the screen, dancing from left to right while the movie played. The figure danced for about 15 to 20 seconds and then disappeared from the screen. We were confused because we had seen the movie before and never encountered such a figure. We rewound the movie to before we saw the figure, but this time there was none at all. Our parents didn't see the shadow figure, so they didn't fully understand or believe our account of what happened. I am looking for opinions and or help in understanding whether it was a paranormal encounter or if there was something wrong or unusual with the DVD. And that's where that one ends. And another odd one in that that's a image on a screen. And it's they listed the movie there, but it's a fairly well-known movie from a major motion picture company. So the chances of it being a mistake on the DVD, to me, and in that kind of a manner, seem like it's, I don't know, the chances don't seem very good there. But and again, there was 3 kids there that all saw the same thing. So really amazing story there. But yeah, and I feel like I've read somewhere else in some other story where a shadow figure had a cane. I wonder if that's something new that's starting to sort of manifest in the zeitgeist or whatever, and it's showing up in people's. But then again, these experiences are from years ago too. So, but or maybe it's just the reports are coming out now of that. So I don't know, but that's an odd one because that's a. They said it was a DVD, so I'm guessing this is a little ways back before streaming services were super popular yet. So that, I mean, in a way, that means it wasn't like someone playing a joke, hacking the thing or the internet of the van or whatever. At least I wouldn't think so. So it's really amazing, and again, it's kids. So was there just some entity there, just that wanted attention for whatever reason, and figured out the best way to do it was to manifest somehow on the screen. I wonder if it was more on the screen, but I mean, if it can be whatever size and shape it wants, then the kids would just see it as being part of the screen in the actual footage. But yeah, amazing story there. But what do you all think of that? So, I don't know who wants to go first.
Yeah, that's a crazy story. I'm thinking about movies like in the movie Fight Club, where they splice, one picture in on the old movies where it's like a film, and he splices one little thing in there and it pops up on the screen. You don't really notice it unless you're looking for it and you can pause it at the right time. And there's lots of movies coming out now that you might have heard these the most scariest movie ever. If you watch it, you'll die.
Yeah.
And in these movies, they have they'll flash like esoteric symbols or demon faces on the screen to make these movies scary movies. I don't know how I would tie that into it being a kids movie, or how I could tie that into being that it was a DVD and it wasn't there when they went back to watch it. If it is paranormal, this is an interesting creature that can appear inside of a screen and only be there for a moment and then gone. And a cane and a top hat are predominant features. It's not a normal, just a shadow figure. These
Right.
are like, it's showing itself as with like character,
Yeah,
It's kind of
definitely.
weird. And I like how there's multiple witnesses that saw it, multiple kids that saw it. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. The it's not like just a vague figure that they can maybe explain away as some other vehicle or some shadow being formed from the environment that naturally went across the screen. I'm guessing it would take quite a lot for any kind of physical shadow to appear like that with a top hat and a cane in that kind of a fashion on a screen like that. I think the circumstances would have to line up. I mean, it'd have to be an amazing set of coincidences there or something.
Yeah, and I wonder how big it was on the screen. They said they were watching it on the little TV, in the backseat of
Right.
the car. They aren't that big of screens. So I'm wondering how big this figure compared into the movie it was. And also curious of what movie it was. Just I guess go see it, watch it, see if it's in there.
Yeah, I can tell you
Yeah,
all after, but yeah.
okay. That story is kind of wild just because what is it? Is it a figment of their imagination? There's 3 witnesses. That's kind of weird. What would it be? What would you categorize it as? A shadow figure inside a film? Like I was kind of going with like a cursed film. Um, I'm not sure about that one, but I do like how there's multiple witnesses and how it gives us like a character to kind of visualize instead of just being a shadow figure. Great story.
Yeah, you know what this makes me think of again? I wonder how many of these are going to happen tonight. Beetlejuice references. Because in that movie, there's a scene where you have Beetlejuice show up on an old TV. And it actually turns off on its own. It's a lot more extreme than this story in a way. But you have this ghost, for lack of a better word, on this TV screen. And now, of course, but again, and the other thing that ties to it in a way is in the movie, for anyone that hasn't seen this 30 plus year old movie, ghosts can exist in different sizes, not just shapes. It's almost like they can travel between, I don't know if it'd be like a micro and like just different dimensions where they can be different, or if it's just a matter of them changing their shape at will, or not. But if they can be any size, then I guess it might be a little bit easier to manifest on a TV screen. Maybe it wasn't even so much, it wasn't affecting the DVD directly, it was more interacting with the TV screen itself, manifesting that through that directly, not so much the DVD.
Yeah, what would we call that? Poltergeist activity?
Maybe. I don't know.
Great story.
Yeah, go ahead, Apoc.
Right. Well, electromagnetic frequency, right? So,
Yeah.
the interaction between the light and the electricity and all that could create sort of a window to release some sort of memory or energetic dimensional like frequency that could let other creatures in. I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking on this one.
Yeah. That's what I wonder too, because again, and I've heard of similar stories of things appearing in the middle of TV shows and movies on screens. With those stories, though, it was usually more of it took place in a home, but that doesn't mean it can't take place in other settings as well. So yeah, and especially I wonder if the it's easier for, let's say, whatever entities are out there or energy fields that are conscious, for them to the smaller they have to appear, the more they can manifest. In other words, it'd be harder maybe for that shadow figure to appear in normal size because it would take more energy. But if you're just appearing as just this tiny little shape overall on a screen, then it's not quite so hard. Maybe it's even easier in that case. So, yeah, I don't know. But also, who's excited or nervous for Beetlejuice 2? Or both? Because yeah. But
Anything with Winona Ryder is good.
yeah, yes, we've talked about that before. We'll see how it goes. I hope so, Jay. I hope so. But go ahead.
But I just why was it only 15 seconds or 10 seconds or whatever it was? You know, did they pass the place where somebody flattened the guy who that frog on Bugs Bunny was
Mm,
jumping around with a cane? I mean, I imagine someone dancing with a top hat and a cane. I imagine that frog on Bugs Bunny.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, was it? Why would you pick that? That man dancing around in a cane is the thing that I find really odd about it all. You know, like someone, I guess it's some conditioned because of what you see in the movies, help me or whatever,
Right.
but to just all of a sudden see some man jumping up and down on the screen, dancing with a top hat and a cane. It seems that's the odd thing because I would imagine they've been traveling, right? They're on their way to a water park. They're in the truck going down the highway. They put the
Yeah.
screens on so the kids aren't fighting. So did they pass through a high energy zone or, a horrific accident, whatever? There's something going on. It just makes me wonder why. I don't know. The top hat and the cane thing has really got me. There's places like when you're driving through the mountains or something like that, your radio station will go back and forth between one or the other. Sometimes they'll double play over each other because you're in that spot, but how would that mess with a DVD to the fact that you actually saw a picture? And, that's just where my thought process was going on. I don't know. It's an interesting story. I have a lot of questions. Like, what was the movie?
Yeah. It was definitely a kids movie. It was definitely a little, definitely a little kids movie. So, not like I don't know. That's I guess I could probably just say the title without saying the company, but it's called Little Bear 2, I think it was. I don't really know the movie itself, but
I don't either.
but
I've seen lots.
yeah, yeah,
But I don't know. That's interesting.
and it could have been some spirit or whatever, or just entity that is tied to the area, and if it's just one spot on the road, and obviously kids aren't gonna be thinking about looking around at what's going on if they're watching a movie.
Right.
Maybe there's something to mark something that happened there
Hey,
nearby.
look at me. I'm here.
Yeah,
Help
yep,
me.
yeah. Or just notice me. Just
Right.
again, that you hear that a lot too. So yeah,
Yeah. Cool one, James.
yep, yeah. I think so as well. Those stories that involve screens. Again, I had one a couple weeks ago with this couple that were sitting there watching TV and they had their streaming service was malfunctioning and it went to a black screen and they could see a reflection, what they thought it was a reflection of the room they were sitting in. But in that reflection, there was a shadowy figure sitting on the couch in front of them. And then they noticed that the curtain for the window was pulled off to one side in that image. But then where they were at in whatever reality is, they had the curtain pulled across the window. So the curtain was in different positions from one reality to possibly another. So these screen images are always amazing to me because of just that seems like some consciousness, some awareness that is somehow manipulating through some kind of energy transfer or change or whatever is somehow affecting electronics and making images in different ways, and it's just really odd. So I'm always glad when I find those stories because I think that's something that I wonder how much more we're going to see of that as we go further and further into into this technological, you could say, age where screens are just in more and more locations.
What happens when it happens to the AI? The
Yeah.
AI, a spirit decides that he wants to monkey around with the AI.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
sorry, James.
No, you're good. That's a good point and good question. And I've always wondered about the AI and if there's not already a spirit that's involved in that. But then also, that's a good question. What if there's not, but then it happens? So that's a good question. But yeah, well, think I'll move on to the next one here, so we can get through at least a handful of these. And so let's see here. This one says, I stopped at an ordinary hotel while traveling and had an odd experience. The night started with strange thoughts that didn't seem like my own. Then I felt a hand touching my back while I tried to get to sleep. I woke up sometime later to strange music and the transparent image of a woman standing at the window. She appeared to be just over 5 feet tall and pregnant. She was smiling. I thought I noticed a shadow behind the woman, but then she and the shadow vanished, along with the music, and the view of the highway and streetlights outside returned to normal. I fell asleep again sometime after that. And that's where that story ends, and that's that may sound odd to anyone that's not into these things, for someone who went through all of that to fall asleep right after. But you can find that happen again and again and again in so many stories of experiences. I don't know how to explain it. I'm not saying I do, but it is very common, and I've been there myself. So, really odd. But yeah,
It is really common actually with stress to for your adrenaline to surge and basically release all this chemistry from your body and your brain and tire you out very quickly. It's really weird, and our bodies do that.
Huh.
Yeah. Anyway, next person, go ahead.
Wow, that makes that makes sense. Because I had that happen once before with one of my own experiences. That first, well, my cousin's house, I had that happen one night. But yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, maybe he was drifting in and out of sleep, and it was a dream or some sort of vision.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think, I've been to a lot of haunted hotels, and when I'm at these places, I think about. They always say, "Oh, this room is haunted," or "That room is haunted," because there's a tragedy or a death or something happened there that caused the haunting. But I believe when something like that happens, I don't think ghosts they might be drawn to the place they die, but they might not be stuck there.
Right.
I think that makes the whole hotel haunted, not just necessarily one room. Because I always say, what are walls to ghosts? If they don't use walls, or they don't can go through walls, you could be having an experience in your hotel room from a ghost of something that happened in the hotel room next to you. The murder happened there. Lots of stories like that. I believe maybe he was getting some sort of vision. The fact that the woman was pregnant kind of gives me, adds more to the story of, if it's a ghost, what happened? Why is she there? Is it someone he knows, or is it just a random ghost at a hotel? And with a lot of these stories, I wish we had more information. I wish we had maybe, ask about the history of the hotel, or if there is any tragic deaths or any kinds of weird things that happened at this hotel in the past, or recently he was there. Maybe he was seeing something like that, tapping into a vision. I like how it said it went kind of backwards in time as well, like it superimposed over his regular vision, and then it came back. Like he said, the freeway came back.
Right.
So I'm wondering if these I'm wondering if that ghost was trying to show him a vision of the past, before that freeway was even built. Like a time, like kind of like a time, I guess we call it a time slip.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that's the only bad part about these stories that you find online is, it's there's always going to be all kinds of questions that you don't get to ask because it's just a post. It's just a, few paragraphs or whatever.
I have questions.
Yeah. Oh, always. And yeah, you're right. I always think about that when people talk about, the, like they were at a hotel. It's like, what hotel? I want to look into this more. And but the other part that is odd to me, I wonder if those thoughts that they sensed were coming from that woman. Was that somehow? I don't know if that was part of the whole connection, the whole experience. I don't. It's that part of to me is not your usual sort of ghost appearing, haunting kind of thing. But if it is some kind of a time connection with time, or someone trying to show them another time and what they were going through, then maybe that could be explain that as well. It's always hard to say.
Yeah, and then you also have the add in there of the shadow figure that came with it. And so I'm wondering, is this a darker spirit that maybe is older, and it sometimes there's stories where a dominant dark spirit will hold other ghosts, hold other spirits there, like a tyrant. And I'm wondering about that. This woman was pregnant. Did this monster want to keep her there, her ghost there, and that's why he saw both? That's wild.
Yeah, it doesn't really say. I wonder if they meant that it was the shadow of the woman, if that was the shadow figure, or if they meant it was someone else, because that could change things. I wonder if it was a shadow of someone else, if that could be who was in contact with the writer, with the experiencer there, and that shadow figure was what was really controlling what the whole experience. It's hard to say. But yeah, that's odd. Yeah, go ahead.
I took it as there's two spirits in the room.
Right.
So yeah, and it could be shape shifting, showing himself or showing itself as the woman, as a pregnant woman to not scare him. They appearing how they want to appear. Yeah, that one has a lot. My mind thinking about a lot of different things. That's a good story. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it is odd. A lot of little details there, and it's the thoughts to me are maybe, I don't know, the strangest part of that whole story. That the writer had these thoughts that they didn't recognize as being their own. So, and again, you can a lot of stories you can kind of, I don't know. I could see some people going the negative route with that, but it's hard to say for sure, as always with a lot of these stories. So, but yeah, I don't know if Jay or Apoc, you want to jump in on that one. But
I just, I mean, it's like it's showing a piece of time,
Right.
Like it wanted to show you that minute that the happy lady is, looking out the window, and then I don't know, it's like just telling a story. And then I also look at something that you and I've talked about before. Was it just a little like hiccup in the time thing where all time is kind of running together at the same time? You're just experience, oops, you slipped into somebody else's time by accident there. We forgot to tell you for those. Watch out. Kind of a thing. It's like a spot where time jives every once in a while. And you can see what was going on in the past. And then go ahead, James.
Sorry, yeah, I'm wondering if that was, let's say it was a woman and a man, and that the person, because we don't know, this person that saw this, they don't list if they were, doesn't really matter either way, but let's say that the thoughts were of the woman, but then also the touch, let's say that they were a couple, and it was the man putting the hand on the woman's back as a sort of a kind or loving and it just happened that this person, unfortunately, happened to be there at the wrong time, and sort of had more of an experience than anyone really wanted them to have. As well, with that, I wonder if that could be part of it.
And just, I don't know. I look at the way that we, all of those stories, I've listened to, quite a few now, and then it's like, it seems like that's one of those things that's kind of making it, like, it's part of the, like, you see stuff that happen, you talk about, they hear about kids running down the hallways in hotels and stuff like that, and they look out there and there's no kids, and the maid, the janitor going down the hallway, he's just doing his thing. Maybe they were just doing their thing too back in that day, and you're just not really having a paranormal experience as much as it would be like a time slipper.
Yeah.
That time and your time, you were both in the same place at the same time. That wasn't supposed to happen.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I had a story last week about someone working in a movie theater, and they noticed one of the little concession stands, the light was on there, even though they were closing up. And they opened the door to the thing, and there's another guy in there wearing a different uniform that they recognize as an older uniform for the movie theater. So you have like these two workers at this theater that are from different times that end up meeting for just a split second. And the writer of the story is like, "Who are you?" And they're like, "What are you doing here?" And they're like, "I'm supposed to be here." This guy, And the writer is like, "No, you're not." But then, it sounds like that one really does sound like a time slip, a time merging of two times there for just a brief moment. And then everything, the writer blinked, and then the guy and everything else in there that was different was, gone. And so, yeah, I think these things can happen. So, definitely.
It's just, I don't know. It's like what makes it think. I mean, is it all in your head, too? I mean, it really could. You don't know. Well, I mean, the ones where you have 3 or 4 witnesses, but
right,
would throw that theory out the window. But I
Yeah.
think that sometimes you might just experience it all completely inside your head. The time slipper, not being as physical as we can be at that moment, tired, driving, relaxing, trying to get some sleep. And then your mind just wanders and goes off on a walkabout through time, But I don't know. I don't know. That was a good story, James.
Yeah, I think imagination definitely has a part in all of this, and even if we're not conscious or aware of it sort of roaming and then maybe connecting with these other places and other times and other people. So definitely seems possible. But yeah, well, I think I'll go to the next story here. And let's see here. Now this one, okay. This one says 5 days ago, I was driving home from work late at night near a wooded parkway close to home. I saw a ghostly figure resembling a tall humanoid wearing a glowing white dress near a creek. The figure was visible despite the pitch black darkness outside. I stopped my car to observe this apparition, but found nothing there when I looked into the woods. It had apparently vanished. When I got home, I shared my experience with my family, and my sister mentioned seeing a similar figure in that same location 2 years earlier. The next day, the parkway was filled with police near the woods where we saw this figure. A 50-year-old woman's skeletal remains were found near the creek with her ID next to her. The discovery raises questions about how long she had been there and how she ended up in a place frequently traveled and visited by school children as well as myself and my family. I think that the woman I saw was a ghost and the spirit of the same person whose remains were found. The proximity of the location to my house adds to the eerie nature of this situation. I hope the woman found peace. And that's where that story ends. So, that one right there, there's so many stories where it seems like there are so many things that it could be. I don't know, that one I lean more towards sort of what the writer was saying. Obviously I don't know, and they don't know for sure, but I mean, I feel like I've heard similar stories where it does appear to be the spirit of, or at least the consciousness of a person that was in the area physically, and of course in some situations that's because they ended up there against their will. I wonder, again, that goes back to sort of, I think one of the origins of some ghost stories, where it's a tragedy and it's a horror story in a way of how this apparition came to be in a place. It's because they had died there, or at least been left there. So it's one of those stories where it's definitely not a happy ending in a way, unless it was somehow the spirit of that woman just needed to be seen and then was okay after, hopefully. But I don't know. It just felt like that's it's important to share those once in a while too. So, but found that one a little while back. So, but the thing with the woods, I mean, I know the writer said that they were surprised that it was in an area where they've been, but if it's the woods, you know, and you're not, I don't know, it feels like there's places where things can be left, and not even just people, I'm just saying objects or whatever, and you may never find them, and it really is odd. So, go ahead, Apoc.
So do you think that's like residual in most cases, or, I mean, I think energetically emotional content can be residual and stay in the same place, you know, and if it is, pardon me, I'm eating seeds. if
No problem.
if it is residual, we have an emotional attachment to this, like, haunting or, you know, experience that people have, but maybe it's just sort of a pattern, a movie, an image, and like an energy map, so to speak, and
Yeah.
a residual type thing, you know.
Yeah, and that's what I hope in those kinds of situations, especially, is that that's what it is. And I think that does happen too. So hopefully that's what it is. But it's, I don't know, sometimes there are some cases where there seems to be interaction. I don't know if there's really direct interaction between the writer and what they saw in that case. I mean, I know that the figure disappeared, so that's, but that doesn't necessarily mean direct interaction. So it could be there was a residual, hopefully. But it is odd the way it happened in the area, and then they found that person after. I don't know, but yeah, odd story. Definitely seems to be one of your, whether you go with the residual or the spirit of, it seems to be almost your stereotypical ghost story in a way. And those are out there too, but yeah, I definitely always hope for the residual. And I think in a lot of cases it is, but then you have some stories where there's more interaction, and that's where you have to wonder. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's the woods too are also, I mean, that's a whole different energy to them as well. So, go ahead, Matthew or Matt. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot on this one. First of all, I hope the woman did find peace. But you have first he's driving a car, and people who have paranormal experiences while driving a car, myself included. It's cool that he pulled over. He pulled over to, 'cause you can't operate a vehicle. You have to pay attention. So when you pull over to double check, to double look, that adds to the credibility. He didn't just keep driving. And then we have the Thai that was it his sister that said she saw something similar at the same time, same around the same time. So we have that kind of connecting the story. And then my other thing would be, he said that it was the skeletal remains of the woman, meaning she had been dead for some time. Um, and he said maybe people would have seen it. It makes me wonder if the body was moved there after. If it was nefarious
Right.
things going on. And maybe that's why the ghost appeared. It started to appear to people to get help. That, hey, my body's over here. Come find me to catch the killer. It's kind of where my mind went with that one. And how she was kind of pointing it out. Hey, over here, here's my body. I believe in stories like this because there is lots of stories where they either find the killer or find the body of the victim through like a medium, like a
Right.
psychic, psychic stories where that's how they find the body. So I'm wondering if there's something going on like that where the ghost is appearing to show, hey, look over here. That one's pretty wild, but I do like how it is. You said it is a great ghost story because we have the tie of two different people seeing the same kind of thing, and I like those. Good story.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's the two people across 2 different years. And yeah, it said skeletal, so I picked up on that too. It feels like it was more of a something that happened hopefully a long time ago. I don't even know hopefully, but either way it's not good. But yeah, and I really wonder now how close if the body was found in the woods, I wonder how close that was to that road. But yeah, it could be it could be there. That was the point. It could be that was the intention was that this is where I'm at. It could be that too. It's hard to say with some of these stories, but yeah, found that and just had to share it. So, but let me see here. I think I'll move on to the next one here. And I've got, I don't know if it's crickets or some other kind of bug outside making noise right now. So, anyway, this next story says, this happened back around 1989 or 1990 in the general area of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I was in bed on the second floor of my house when I woke up in the middle of the night and felt something was odd. I got up and looked out the window and saw a craft the size of a small car land silently on my neighbor's roof. This car-sized, cigar-shaped object had legs resembling suction cups and spinning and blinking lights of different colors. I was frozen for a time, though I don't know how long exactly. I have poor eyesight, so I stepped away to grab my glasses. But when I turned back, the craft had disappeared. I tried to tell my mom, but she dismissed it as a dream. But it was not a dream, because I can see perfectly in dreams. I'm still looking for insight into this experience. And that's where that story ends. I'm almost, excuse me, I'm almost more interested in the fact that they see perfectly in dreams more than they see better in dreams than they do in while they're awake. But there is the UFO thing as well, so I guess we should probably talk about both of those things, or at least the UFO thing. I don't know, but the it says that landed on the roof of another house. That is really amazing, and I wonder. It's too bad. I'm guessing maybe, excuse me, the writer doesn't know that those people in the other house. Otherwise, I would be wanting to go over there and find out. Hey, did you hear anything last night? But also, if it was a kid, then at the time it happened, then they might not want to do that either. But odd story there, and the cigar shape, but also has lights on it that are moving and blinking. Really, and this is back in closer to 1990, so drone technology, I'm guessing, is just not quite there yet, especially if it's the size of a car. I don't know, but that's quite the UFO sighting right there. So, but yeah, Apoc, if you see you there, if you wanna go.
I'm really happy that we're getting more of those stories because I saw that one when I was a kid, but it was bus size and it was still kind of the tic tac shape and size and everything. Didn't have feet, but it was within, I don't know, 50 to 100 feet of a house, but floating above it, still sort of behind the electrical lines. So if we, collect all those stories, I had the encyclopedia of UFO stuff, you know, for a long time. I would get one after the other. There are several updates on it, and it presents a few that are sort of close, but just until the UFO Tic Tac thing came out, you really went, a long way to try to find anything that sounded even close. And so I'm just really grateful that that there are more stories like that. So yeah, if anybody else has anything like if it had like arms or legs or something, I'm sure the phenomena might be more earthbound,
Right.
but it's still I don't know, really uh, uh, fantastic thing to hear
Yeah.
those stories. Yeah.
And it's odd. I mean, it doesn't sound like the writer took long to get their glasses. So if it had landed and then it was just able to go that fast while the writer was getting their glasses, that's pretty fast. I'm guessing for it to be completely gone. Not even just it was up in the sky or anything like that. It was just gone. And I just really wanted some of these stories. The other thing I wonder is who else had a experience related to this. If it landed on top of someone's house, what did the people in that house experience? If anything, if it was quiet and if it didn't really land hard, that's a creepy thought there. Could have landed and then just left and no one even knew. Except maybe the writer there. But yeah, odd one there. Go ahead, Jay.
It just it makes me think it's like you're landing on a house. Most of them aren't flat, you know.
Right.
So, and it's a house. It's crooked, There's other houses around power lines and everything else like that, And you're right. It just take off like that. That's really weird. That also makes me think. What were they doing there? Stealing energy. Like in the kids' cartoon where they go and steal the screams out of the closet. You know, they jump out of the closet and steal kids' screams for their power source. Was it refueling, stealing some water? You know, you just needed to stop for a second, and then you could see it because it had to land, and you have to see it when they can't land with the whatever cloaking device on.
That's a good. I didn't think of the fact that it would be landing on a slant. I forget sometimes that like, I mean, it could even be, I don't know, no matter what the degree is, it's still a slant, and that is
right. And it's a roof. They're not
yeah.
that big,
Right.
That's something odd's going on there. Why would they pick that particular house? I would go over at least the next day and knock on the dude's door and be like, "You all right? Everybody
Yeah.
home?"
Yeah. Yep. No, I'd be curious. I want that's the ironic thing is with all these stories is like we all hear them and they're like, yeah, and that was it, and we're like, well, yeah, but wait, no, really, that can't be it. What happened after? What did those other people experience?
Hey, Joe,
But
did you have a problem with your Wi-Fi last night? Could be
yeah,
something. I don't
yeah,
know, James. Good story though.
yeah. Well, I don't know if you all want to keep going a little longer or if you want to stop now. It's up to you all.
It's the radio thing for you, James, when it's
Yeah.
important, right?
Well, one of these are okay once in a while to do when we don't have to stick to that schedule. But yeah, we can. I don't know, maybe one more story and then we can stop. I think that
That's
sounds
fine
like
with me. I'll talk to you till 2:00 tomorrow afternoon.
Oh man, I don't think I have that many stories. I only
It's
got
okay.
7 more.
We can move on to food.
That's true. That's true. Well, there's always room to talk about food. But yeah. All right, I'll do one more story here. Get through a half dozen. So let's see here. This one says, my partner and I have been hearing a rhythmic drum beat recently. We have heard it while each of us are alone in our house as well. I first noticed the drum beat one morning, slightly earlier, before my partner woke up. I mentioned it to them, but it seemed like they didn't understand at that time. Last week, my partner messaged me while I was at work, saying that they could hear the drums there as well, and it seemed slightly louder and closer. They recorded the sounds on video and sent the video to me. I am still confused about the source of the drum beat. It is always in the morning and midday when we hear it, but I'm usually at work. So I have decided to research this, hoping to uncover more information, and that's where the story ends. So here again you have sounds. That's kind of funny. We started with sounds and ending with sounds. And I've heard sound. I can understand sort of what they mean, where it's not just sounds you can track where you know where it's coming from. I've said this before in the show. I have times where I'll hear bumps and bangs, and I can tell, oh, it's the plumbing, or it's coming from the apartment on either side of mine. But then there are other times I hear bumps in the apartment or bangs, and I can't pinpoint where they're coming from. And I'm very good at listening at this point. That's what I do most of the time. Is I'm because of my low vision, I'm always listening. And there is this odd feature to a lot of sound, and I've heard this in other stories too, to some sounds where people will report hearing what sounds almost like a scream, but it sounds like it's faint, like it's coming from far away, but it's also right there with them. And I've had that with the bumps more than anything else. So, but the fact that it's a drumming sound, I wonder if they mean it's because it's repetitive, or I don't know if it must be repetitive. It must not just be one sound or random. Sounds like it's a constant thing, at least for as long as it lasts. So, yeah, I don't know. I'd wonder about the history of the area that they're at, of course. If there's any kinds of Again, whoever the people were that were there before them, because they don't really say what country even they're in. But further back you go in time, there's people that, and I mean, they still do it today, where drums are used for meditation and just different purposes relating to ceremony and all these different things, energy, all these things. So I wonder what the history is of the land in that case, if that would have anything to do with it. So they say it's in the morning and then in the middle of the day, but not at night. That's also kind of odd. But that's about all I have on that one. I don't know what to make of that.
The thing that makes me think of that and stuff like that is like all kinds of stuff makes sounds. Like we were working in a super loud room where you had to wear those ear canceling or sound canceling headphones.
Mm-hmm.
And when you put them on, you could still hear each other talk. It just like drowned it out, like those higher pitched noise. But the thing is, though, is you could feel the sound. I'm wondering if that's what they're talking about, because even though it's far away, I mean, it's that pulse of energy, you know, like you can. The drumming sound is also the feeling, like when you go to a big concert or something like that, and the guy's got a huge setup and speakers, you know, you can feel that bass on you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm wondering if that's what they're talking about in their sound. It's like a feeling, because they said that it sounded far away, but it was like real close by them. You know, it was like an actual something, you know, hitting them with waves.
Yeah, I wonder in some cases too if depending on who's responsible for these things, if it is some kind of consciousness, whether it's a person or not, if maybe they either choose to try to communicate through these sounds, these drumming sounds, or if that's the only way they're able to communicate is through this kind of a drumming sound. I wonder if that has something to do with it. I don't know, but just a sort of a guess there as far as what's behind that. It is, I don't know, the fact that it's happening a couple times a day, but again, not at night. That is interesting. Go ahead, Matt.
My first thought is Jumanji. That's a joke.
Right. Yeah.
But I've actually had an experience where I heard drumming. And I would only describe it as, I would say, Native American or like tribal kind of drumming. In this house where I moved in this house, and the night we moved in, we didn't have, you know, TV or internet or anything yet. And at night we would wake up and hear this drumming coming from within the house. We couldn't find it. And flute music as well, like the Native American like flute and drumming.
Right. Yeah.
And I know I live by a creek, and we had what they call the Padwin Indians that were here. I started researching it because whenever they build stuff around here, they build these buildings, and they have to postpone the building of these plans of these buildings because they have to have a team come in and take the Native American skeletons, you know, out. Like in respect, you know, they don't want to just build the building over it, so they have to stop the plan, and they have to come in, and you know, a team comes and takes the skeletons away in honor, you know, in respect, and it messes up the plans for the building. So I'm wondering, I don't know if that has a tie, but I do like that one. That how they said that it happens in the day. That's kind of weird. And I'm wondering if that recording, if they can get any information out of that recording, what kind of music is it? How, you know, is it fast? Is it slow? Is it trying to tell us something? Like, what does it mean? The drumming. So kind of cool that they have evidence. They have a tape of it. That's kind of cool. Hopefully we can maybe maybe they'll follow up on that one.
Yeah,
That's a
they
good story.
haven't. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, they haven't as far as I've seen, but that is yeah, I'd wondered about that recording too. And yeah, I have seen, I have heard. I mean, I'm sure we've all probably heard plenty of paranormal shows or other shows where they talk about how sometimes, especially the further back you go, and the just places are just communities and buildings are just set up. They just build, and they don't look into, or they don't try to find out the history of the area first, and then they end up finding remains of people from the past, whether it is Native Americans, or in some cases, I mean, around the world, they'll find others. Just and yeah, it could be that kind of situation. That's a lot of your like horror movies will go in that route. With the place is built on a burial ground, and so much so that it's a trope, but it does happen. So some of the stories I've seen and heard on different shows before, the writers mentioned that either before or after everything happened, they learned about the history of the area, and then they attribute the things that are happening there to that, and that can make sense in a way. So, but yeah, odd story there. Excuse me, and good points by everybody. So, and but yeah, and Logan nearly just scared me half to death because she jumped onto the arm of my chair without making a single sound. So that was nice to see a random cat just show up out of nowhere. But at least I know it's her. But anyway, so that'll be it for today. Thank you all for being here. All my guests, especially. We sort of arranged this as far as getting it all situated almost last minute, started yesterday. And so I want to thank everyone for being here with me today. So, and I think as of right now, the only one that I have to talk about this with here is Apoc. I don't know if you want to talk about any of your projects that you do. You're welcome to or not. It's okay either way.
No, I'm good.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. But I love the roundtable thing, and I think dogs.
No problem. Yeah, no, I love it as well, and we'll be doing this every other month from now on. So I'll be having you all back on. Jay, thank you again for being here, and then Matt as well. But yeah, Jay, go ahead.
I love it, James. Talking, I like the way that you do the little stories and have us all have a conversation about. These are a lot of fun. Thank you much.
No problem. Thank you again as well.
And everybody else too. Great show.
Yeah. Yep. And I want to thank especially Matt for joining us, because I contacted him at the last minute and he came through. So Matt, thank you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, James. I'm a big fan of the show, and I do like these roundtable conversations. They're fun. So thanks for having me, and keep up the good work. And I'll talk to you later.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, definitely we'll be doing this again, like I said, in a couple months. So, all right. Well, thank you all who are listening for being here as well. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show, if you want to support the show, you will also be supporting my trip to the Mid-Michigan Paracon this year, November 4th and 5th. I'm still arranging all of that, but any support of the show through the donation links, PayPal and Venmo, Patreon, would be appreciated. It's never expected, but there are expenses to go into these things, just in terms of transportation and then the hotel room for the one night, and all these things, the equipment for the show, equipment for recording while I'm there, just all these different things. And I'm doing what I can, but if you all want to help me make a better show out of whatever I'm able to record, that would be amazing. And you all will hear all about it once I get back as well. But that's in November, so we have a little ways away. So thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care, everyone.